Your Excellency, it's just wonderful to be here, and I think what a perfect start to our conversation to see examples of 4 companies that clearly are registering here in the Kingdom. I think, as I said in my remarks yesterday, it is extraordinary for those observers outside Saudi Arabia to see the accelerated pace of growth of this ecosystem, both in terms of generating locally born companies, but also in attracting companies into the region. I understand you weren't there yesterday because you were in Jeddah, because you were announcing yet another initiative. So tell us what else you're doing in the entrepreneurship and innovation space, and particularly what yesterday was about.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Jonathan, for what you do globally, and certainly, as a Saudi, I thank you for what you're doing with us in the Kingdom, bringing this global conference, this great level of participation from around the world, and I hope it's only the beginning of many things that we will do together with Jen, because we have 100% alignment on our objectives of unleashing the power of entrepreneurship of the youth, empowering young men and women, and not only in Saudi Arabia, not only in our own geography, but the Kingdom is open for business globally. We're attracting investors, entrepreneurs, innovators, scientists, and capital, of course, globally, as well as contributing the same from the Kingdom to the rest of the world. And I think your organization embodies that global connectivity, global complementarity, and free flow of ideas and innovation, first and foremost, but the capital that also flows with it. Yesterday we were in Jeddah. Jeddah was humming, just like Riyadh. I think we were competing with you. We were getting the vibes from Riyadh about the conference and the great opening day you had here. It was all over the networks, but Jeddah, we had our own innovation initiative that we kicked off Friday night. It's called Catalyze Saudi. It's a partnership between the Ministry of Investment and Jeddah, the Fund of Funds, which is a PIF initiative. And in addition to what we do in our space in MISA and what Jeddah does in terms of their mobilization of capital into VCs and private equity, we realize that the most important element that we all need to do, and again, I go back to your organization, you are so supportive and helpful with this, is also to create the connections, because people don't know what is going on elsewhere. Certainly Saudi Arabia is something of an untold story, and we wanted to make sure that people come and experience it firsthand at the grassroots, meet the inventors and the innovators and the entrepreneurs and the venture capitalists and the angel investors here in the Kingdom. So it was useful to go to Jeddah and meet the community there. It was useful to go to KAUST and see the incredible amount of technology and science and innovation and the deep tech startup initiatives that are taking place at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. And at the same time, network with those who came to Jeddah to attend the Grand Prix. This is the second year for Saudi Arabia, and I can tell you that all F1 aficionados were saying Saudi Arabia knows how to organize an event, just like we're organizing a great one here. So the race was a success. The networking around the race, from the global community was incredible. And the common theme, I think, and I'm somewhat biased, but I try to balance it by even eavesdropping on what people are saying. The common theme is amazement about our young people. People are really amazed by the capabilities, the energy, the enthusiasm, the high level of education, and the entrepreneurial spirit that is coupled with a work ethic, with dedication, with an intent by all of our young people to do what it takes to create successful, impactful, meaningful opportunities, not quick wins, not shortcuts. And I think we're seeing the benefits in our economy in the last few years, and the growth exponential. In terms of, we just witnessed really a very diverse group of companies that have just been licensed to operate in Saudi Arabia. One of them is one of the world's most successful incubators, accelerators, plug and play. There is a venture capital company. There is a health tech company, fast delivery company, and the rest. You listen to their businesses. So we're seeing the diversity. This just happens to be ready for licensing this week, so we chose the opportunity to put them on stage. But this is happening every week. Yep. We're busy at the Ministry of Investment attracting and licensing international entrepreneurs, as well as, of course, the multinational companies, the big investors that bring in the multi-billion dollar investments in all of our sectors, as well as the ministry being very active in supporting the Saudi investors. We have a lot of capabilities in our listed companies, but also in our family owned enterprises that we're trying to unleash their power and capabilities into the ecosystem. And many of them are also realizing, just like the multinational companies that I used to work with in my days past, they're realizing that a lot of the innovation is born outside their enterprises. And for them to accelerate their growth and to differentiate themselves, venture investing is becoming very prominent amongst the families and the family-owned enterprises. So this is an important element to create the pull in terms of the demand on products and services that entrepreneurs do, but also the capital, and the two go hand in hand. So we're trying to facilitate this and work with the community of venture capitalists, angel investors, which are included in this group, but also, most importantly, to encourage our young entrepreneurs to take the risk to put their capabilities on the line and to create the ventures that we're starting to see the impact.
Well, that's fantastic. It's interesting. One of the other announcements that we made at this conference is the partnership with Thunderbird in the creation of a family office investing initiative. And we're very proud of that with Dean Sanjeev here today. But one of the things we learned about that was just what you're talking about, is that for a lot of the families, a lot of the investment culture was in traditional, larger corporations. And one of the reasons, actually, Minister, at this conference, there is a whole session dedicated to family office investing, is because there's a new generation, as you're indicating, of young people who are suggesting that their family should be investing in earlier stage enterprises. And this is clearly something that I think the international community observes, is the extraordinary level of sophistication and indeed resources that investors can have in the global ecosystem. And as investors are becoming more comfortable in the post-pandemic environment of doing more due diligence digitally from afar, it clearly lends a great opportunity. But let me ask you a little bit, if I can, what is the, you and I both know that technology goes so fast, and you talked about the creative process of being flexible, and you can't lock yourself into certain sectors or targets. But what are your goals? Are there particular sectors and targets that are particularly important to you to try to attract into this ecosystem?
Well, I think we all know that the kingdom has been, for the last 7, 8 decades, our economy has been anchored by oil and gas. It's been the predominant sector in terms of its contribution to GDP, export, government revenues. Vision 2030, if there is one word to summarize the economic part of it, it's diversification. And it is a huge opportunity because if you think of where the economy is going to be in 2030, most of the sectors other than oil and gas will grow by an order of magnitude, will more than double, triple, quadruple in 10 years. So I think, you know, the short answer is everything has the potential for entrepreneurs. And certainly we in the Ministry of Investment are not going to exclude any applicant to, or anybody that needs support for the ministry to grow in any sector of the economy. This is one from a need standpoint of the economy. The other thing, I think the nature of entrepreneurship is an innovation, it's quite organic, and you have to allow it to flow the way inventions and innovations sort of support the growth. But I can tell you that also we have to be cognizant of global trends that are happening today, and how do they impact and put wind in the sail of some sectors that are going to be growing faster than others. One of them, of course, post-pandemic, post-trade tensions, post the tragic conflict in Europe is supply chain resiliency. So anything around supply chain resilience in Kingdom is a huge opportunity for growth, and I think it's going to grow faster than others. This is a global trend, but certainly Saudi Arabia, we're conscious of it and we're going to support it. And that's going to also get in logistics. So logistics is very important. Health tech and healthcare was already digitizing and changing dramatically, but the pandemic, I think, brought that to the forefront and at the highest priority. And I think healthcare will certainly grow. The entire finance space in Kingdom and elsewhere is a huge area for transformation, for disruption, for, as you told me this morning when we chatted, creative destruction. I love our banks, but they have to realize that if they don't innovate and disrupt themselves, they're going to be disrupted by the young fintechs and by global innovation. So fintech is growing at multiple, 3 digits in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I think it's only the beginning. We haven't hit the inflection point, and it's going to grow dramatically. Areas around manufacturing and automation, AI, and everything around data is more than ripe for growth in the Kingdom, and that's going to attract a lot of capital. And I'm glad to say that there is also a lot of indigenous homegrown ideas in the digital space from our research universities and from our researchers. So all of this is going to create the seeds for growth opportunities and entrepreneurship. These are some sectors. I think agri-tech, obviously, the Kingdom is a desert space, and I can tell you yesterday in Jeddah, there were many international investors who are looking to bring vertical farming, bring aquaculture with some biotech interventions to not only create startups, but to bring sizable projects that will create food security as well as export opportunities in the Kingdom.
So if the world of entrepreneurship requires you to be flexible to these opportunities as technologies open up, what's the biggest challenge? Is it become a competition among nations to see which nation can adapt their both regulatory environment and their investment focus fast enough and flexible enough? Is that one of the biggest challenges we have in front of us? I mean, if we're following opportunity.
Well, the kingdom has all of the ingredients for fertile, fast growth, entrepreneurial, ecosystem. We have the market. I think it's well known that our market is large and growing at a very fast pace, and the ambitions are well known. And we're integrating with the regional and global market at a fast pace. We have the capital, we talked about it. I also mentioned in my opening remarks the capabilities of our people, which are, in my opinion, world-class and very competitive. I think the area where we're still calibrating and tweaking, we're not uncompetitive, but certainly we have room for improvements, is our regulations. Our regulations are still centered around large companies and large investments. They're still centered around risk avoidance in terms of making sure that everything is 100% secured, and that makes them slower than they need to be for entrepreneurs. His Excellency Majid Al-Qasabi is here with us. He heads a very powerful committee nationally called Taysir. He has a great center called the Competitiveness Center, which we work with very closely at MISA. He and I are partners to basically collapse the time it takes for registration for large companies, but certainly for entrepreneurs, and make them simple, make them digital, make them easy to understand for anybody from around the world to be able to register their companies and be able to arrive in Kingdom already registered with a bank account, with the right visas, and hit the ground running and be able to operate from day two rather than come on a visitor visa and spend months trying to get their registrations in place. It's not acceptable to him, and it's not acceptable to me, and it's not acceptable to Dr. Iman al-Mutairi, who helps him with this basically removal of all of these regulatory bureaucratic hurdles that we've had. I think we've gone a long way, but we're not there yet. We haven't reached the finish line, and probably there is no finish line. This is a continuous, virtuous circle to try to improve regulations. But if you ask me what is the one thing that we need to work on the most, I think it used to be venture capital. We didn't have venture capitalists 5 years ago. Now we have more than enough. I think we have more capital chasing less ideas, and the reason there are less ideas is we still have bureaucratic obstacles. So we have to be honest here. We're working on it. I commit to you that the next time we meet in a conference like this, maybe here, maybe somewhere else, you will hear great successes that we've achieved in removing these bureaucratic hurdles.
And I think these bureaucratic issues are common, frankly, across the world. So it's an opportunity, actually, to be very competitive. I know we met with the ministers from a number of African countries, and they were saying that one of the most wonderful gifts from the pandemic, despite all the challenges, was the change in the public's demand for being able to do everything on their iPhone, because they said we shut everything down in the government, and we had to quickly make it possible for people to do things, and so we shifted, public ability to do things more quickly through technology. So we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to just, ask you, there's a lot of discussion around the world about Vision 2030. There's a lot of, I think people love the idea of setting that vision. But as we've discussed, things change along the way. But what's your picture as of today as to where you hope things, how it'll look? How's the vision look like from where you sit in your current role in 2030?
Well, Saudi Arabia today looks dramatically different than Saudi Arabia 6 years ago when the vision was launched. I see it even if I am living through it. People who haven't been to the kingdom in a few years are literally shocked when they see the amount of change. Certainly it's visible at the social level, infrastructure of the country, and the vibrancy and the dynamism that is taking place, as well as the mega projects that have been launched by the PIF and by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and the leadership that have been shown by him in taking the country forward. But I think, again, we're only at the inflection point in terms of the economic diversification. In 2030, the economy is going to be nothing like we see it today. Oil and gas will still be large, but it's going to be just another sector. You will see tourism, having more than double-digit contribution. ICT and tech will be a significant sector in the economy. We will have an active space sector in the kingdom. Biotechnology will be very active in the kingdom, from invention all the way to product development to, in the case of medical biotech, clinical trials to actual medications that are addressing disease needs will be happening in the kingdom. The kingdom will be less centered around the major state-owned companies like the SABICs and the Aramcos and the STCs and the Ma'adins, and there will be a wider distribution of the economic weight on a much larger economic actors that many of them are either startups today or haven't even started up today, which means that the startups of today and tomorrow are going to grow exponentially and take a larger and larger role in powering our economy. The economy has already started shifting from my generation to the younger generation, and I think by 2030 you're going to see the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia driven entirely, almost entirely by people who are young. More women, the gender equality will be real. You will see more women in leadership positions in the government and private sector. But I think importantly, from what we're seeing in entrepreneurship, you will see women playing a very, very significant part in the private sector. You will see a more integrated Saudi Arabia internationally. Many of what I just described, including the young entrepreneurs, women are going to be international. Our population today is 33. It's going to approach 50 million by 2030. And the proportion of expatriates, which is already very large in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it's about a third of our population, will be even larger. So the kingdom will be very much open for expatriates, not only to come to do specific jobs, but to come and call Saudi Arabia their homes, invent and innovate, create wealth in Saudi Arabia, and create opportunities for themselves. Job creation will not depend on the government and large companies I described. Job creation will be centered around entrepreneurs and innovative companies. So that is what His Royal Highness envisions the kingdom to be at 2030, and we as his team believe in that vision and are working in a very collaborative way as a truly one team to make that vision a reality. We breathe it, we see it in front of our eyes happening, and we're working day and night to make it happen. But government alone can only facilitate and enable. At the end of the day, it's the entrepreneurs, it's the investors, and it's the NGOs like yourselves who believe in the vision, believes in the people, believes in the talent of Saudi Arabia, who work with us to make that vision a reality, not only for the kingdom, but what is good for the kingdom is going to be good for the region, and it's going to be definitely good for the rest of the world.
Well, this is... I'd like to thank you for that, and it's a very exciting vision, and I think one of the things I've told young people in Saudi Arabia is that you are very lucky to be here at this time. This is a very exciting time, particularly for people who are interested in forming teams and experimenting and figuring out new ways of doing things. But and I want to just thank you, Minister. I think this this comment you made, you know, we have 2,000 to 3,000 people that have come from countries that have never been here, and I would say without exception, they are indeed all completely shocked at how misunderstood, they thought, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was. And I think that's a most wonderful success. For us, that's enough. That's wonderful, and it's great, I think, to have more people excited about that vision going forward. So we very much appreciate it, and thank you for your time today, and I think we'll look forward to being part of this journey. I know you're in a hurry. As I said to His Excellency Dr. Majid, it's evident to us to see the pace happening here, and it's a very exciting example for other countries that are having to go through transformations to see you taking a very innovative approach to moving forward to keeping up with the changes in our society. So.
Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you again for bringing all of us together in this conference, not only in these halls where we have the panels and discussions like this, but I think what probably is going to have the biggest benefit is the networking and the discussions amongst the participants. We don't claim, and I think this is very important, particularly in the entrepreneurship space, to have a fixed roadmap to our destination 2030. It's going to be very organic, and we're going to learn together. There are many disruptive technologies and ideas that will spring up, and there will be, unfortunately, some surprises, just like we're seeing today around the world, that will force us to change tack along the way. But we're nimble, we're agile, we're flexible, and we're humble enough to say we don't know it all. And we want to learn from you and the best, and hopefully you will learn some from us, and we'll travel this journey together to create a better future for the planet, for the population, and certainly for the region that needs a beacon of hope where young people, innovation, economic empowerment is the focus of the government, is the focus of the private sector, and is the focus of our partners from the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.